Good Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Michelle Beck. Tonight in St. Paul, hundreds are expected on the Capitol steps for a candlelight vigil remembering Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark. They were killed in a politically motivated attack over the weekend that set off a massive manhunt and capture of the suspected killer. The vigil will start at 8 tonight on the Capitol steps. We've been told this will be a quiet, peaceful event. The Capitol building will be shut down to the public during the hour-and-a-half-long event. Attendees are asked not to bring signs. This is just one of several memorial events over the past few days honoring the Speaker Emerita and her husband. Those attending the vigil are asked to bring their own candles, and there will be no speakers. Now, we recently heard from Minnesota Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith. They paid tribute to Hortman on the Senate floor and called for an end to politically motivated violence.
I'm sure in the days to come we will offer legislation on security and all kinds of things, but we don't need to pass a law for people to turn down the rhetoric.
Millions of Minnesotans are better off because of the work that she did.
Well, a tragedy is bringing up questions about safety and security at our own state capitol. Gordon Severson has the story.
Outside the state capitol, people are showing up to pay their respects to Melissa and Mark Hortman. Meanwhile, inside the capitol, this tragedy has sparked a renewed conversation about security here inside the building.
It's a really serious conversation that's long overdue here at the Capitol.
Representative Zach Stevenson is a longtime friend and colleague of Melissa Hortman. He says security at the Capitol is a delicate balancing act.
This place needs to be accessible to the public, but part of accessibility is safety.
He believes that balance can be achieved if lawmakers and security professionals work together.
There's several discussions. I don't think anything is off the table to discuss.
Colonel Kristina Bogojevich with the State Patrol says metal detectors are an ongoing conversation at the Capitol, but installing them isn't as easy as you might think.
We provide security for 20 buildings on the Capitol grounds, and so what buildings are we talking about? Are we just talking about the Capitol? Are we talking about those buildings that legislators work in?
Bogojevich says it's a conversation that needs to be had. In the meantime, the State Patrol has added extra troopers to patrol the state Capitol grounds this week, with around 100 troopers and 1,000 cameras now securing the area. Meanwhile, in Washington, leaders in Congress are calling for more funding to add extra security after the deadly attack. U.S. Capitol Police say threats against members of Congress have increased in recent years, with nearly 9,500 threats last year, about 1,500 more than the year before.
There really needs to be change.
Representative Stevenson is hoping this tragedy will spark a deeper conversation about security so that attacks like this never happen again.
Having a conversation about the safety of the public and everyone here at the Capitol is a great way to remember Melissa Hortman.
Gordon Severson, KARE 11 News.
Minnesota's House Speaker Lisa Demuth says she is also working with the Sergeant-at-Arms to make sure lawmakers feel safe both at the Capitol and in their home districts. We have exclusive new details this morning of the mounting case against Vance Belter. With 6 federal charges and possibly more on the way, the Department of Justice could seek the death penalty, a first for Minnesota. Our Lou Ragoo sat down with acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, who shared more on the emotions during the manhunt.
The idea that the killer was on the loose and potentially hunting down more elected officials, it's a nightmare scenario. You really couldn't fully be relieved until it actually happened, and they said he's in custody safely. I was shaking afterwards.
We know Belter is due in court again next week, but that could change if a grand jury indicts him before then. We are also hearing from Brooklyn Park's police chief as the department continues its investigation into the shooting and whether anyone else may be involved. According to officials, police stopped Vance Belter's wife, who had passports and cash, but they let her go. NBC News asking if she's been cleared. This is what Chief Mark Bruley had to say.
I would say nobody's been cleared in this investigation. I would just say that no stone is being left unturned, so the investigation continues. If somebody helped him in any way, they will be held accountable.
And this morning, the Hortmans' neighbors in Brooklyn Park are recalling the chaos on the night of the shootings. For the first time, we are hearing from those living right across the street. Here's Heidi Wigdahl.
In the neighborhood Melissa and Mark Hortman called home, grief surrounds the block.
It's been very hard for all of us, so we're just trying to come together and, yeah.
Sarah Abusnana grew up across the street from the Hortmans.
Used to go over to their house for birthdays and barbecues, and Mark would, he would just invite us over, and, Melissa was very heartwarming, very sweet. I first initially thought there's no way, is this like a dream, is this really happening? My mom was up and since 3:30 in the morning.
And I heard men talking very loud and shooting.
Dalal Abusnana woke up to use the bathroom, only to hear gunshots outside her home.
When I saw everything, I said, oh my God, what's happened? Maybe my neighbor, she have a heart attack. I'm very sad. She's very, very nice lady. She's a very nice neighbor,
While grief surrounds the block,
with deepest sympathy,
Sarah is seeking comfort from her neighbors. She's going door to door with a card for the Hortmans' kids.
Political violence shouldn't take place, and she was a great neighbor. Her and her husband were amazing, and it feels very unreal. It's like we don't know what to think anymore.
That was Heidi Wigdahl reporting. Happening today, the Federal Reserve Board meets to determine interest rates. Many analysts expect the board to hold rates steady. Right now, the price of oil is up sharply due to the conflict between Iran and Israel. Some domestic energy infrastructure in those countries is damaged. Experts say regional export facilities are also at risk. Meanwhile, the pause on many so-called reciprocal tariffs is set to end July 9th. President Donald Trump is back from the G7 summit with a signed UK trade agreement, but without final deals with others. Happening right now, the U.S. is mulling a strike on Iran to help stop its production of nuclear weapons. That would be a big escalation from the U.S. after President Trump demanded the country surrender. Alice Barr is in Washington with details.
Hi there. President Trump is stepping up his public messaging, posting that the U.S. knows exactly where Iran's supreme leader is hiding, saying we're not going to take him out, at least for now, but adding our patience is wearing thin. That as Iranian officials call the president's remarks very hostile and part of their calculation on whether and how to respond. Amid the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran, a pivotal moment inside the White House as President Trump weighs how far to go to help Israel end Iran's nuclear program.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
The president spent Tuesday in the Situation Room with his national security team calling for Iran's unconditional surrender while considering a range of options, including a possible U.S. strike on Iran, according to administration officials. One of Iran's most critical nuclear enrichment sites is buried deep under a mountain, and destroying it would likely require an American warplane with a massive bunker-busting bomb. Many lawmakers in both parties calling for congressional approval before any military action.
We should have some say-so about it.
If it flew the B-52s, we'd be risking yet another war in the Middle East.
Democratic Senator John Fetterman backing a U.S. strike.
You can never have any real peace in the region, if you allow or Iran is able to maintain a nuclear program.
While the Senate's top Republican holds out hope for a diplomatic solution.
Iran coming to the negotiating table and agreeing to end their nuclear program.
President Trump has for weeks pressed Iran to negotiate a deal, now signaling a possible shift.
They should have done the deal. I told them do the deal. So I don't know, I'm not too much in a mood to negotiate.
The U.S. has sent more military assets to the Middle East, and U.S. bases are at their highest alert level, prepared for any possibility of an Iranian strike. Two U.S. officials say Iran is prepared to strike U.S. bases in the Middle East if they choose to, though there are no indications anything is imminent. In new comments, Iran's supreme leader said any American military entry will undoubtedly be met with irreparable damage. President Trump has said any targeting of U.S. troops would bring a forceful response. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
The ban on TikTok in the U.S. is getting delayed yet again. President Trump announcing in the last 12 hours he will sign an executive order delaying the ban for another 90 days. In January, a law went into effect for TikTok to be banned unless it is sold by its China-based parent company. The app has 170 million users here in the U.S. Happening today, the U of M Board of Regents is set to vote on a tuition increase at the Twin Cities and Rochester campuses. They're proposing a 6.5% increase for undergraduate in-state students next year, also a 7.5% increase for out-of-state students. University officials say the rising numbers are necessary to invest in infrastructure and staff. Do stick with us. More news and weather are coming up after the break.